Joy, joy, joy. Joy is the key. Joy is the key. Joy is the key. Joy is the key.
Hello. Hello. Well, I'm glad to see you. Hello. Austin, how nice to see you here. That's so nice. Yeah, we're going to have a wonderful time. Have a seat. How nice of you. Good morning. We are extremely pleased that you are here. It is good to come together for the purpose of co-creating. Do you agree? Yes. You're knowing what you're wanting, why you're here. You like taking thought beyond what it has been before? Do you understand that you are a vibrational being first and foremost, and that you are offering a vibration all the time, and that the vibration that you're offering is sort of where you're at, what life has brought you to? It's often based upon what you've been thinking about. It's about what you've just been thinking about. It's what you are thinking about. But what you are thinking about is usually sort of like what you have been thinking about, because you usually don't move much from what you have been thinking about to what you are thinking about, but you could. What you are thinking about, which is a lot like what you have been thinking about, is largely about what you're observing. So what you're observing and what you have been observing and what you have been thinking about and what you are thinking about keeps bringing more to observe that's just like that. So most things don't change very much for most people, even from decade to decade, because you have these habits of approaching life that are mostly based upon observation, and so it's a cycle that you continue to repeat, but it is not a cycle that needs to be repeated. As you are observing your life experience, you are continually, without knowing it usually, giving birth to preferences of improvement. It really is the basis of all evolution. So as you are emitting this vibrational awareness of what would be better for you from your vantage point, that vibration matters a lot. It becomes a part of a vibrational reality that is the basis of future realities of future generations, but it could be the basis of your future and not so far distant reality. But it's slow going for most of you because your awareness of what is dominant. Hold that word dominant in your mind for just a little bit. We want to revisit as we move through this day together, because there are many things that you think about, and sometimes you feel good when you think about some of these things, and sometimes you don't feel so good when you think about these things. But in every case, on every subject, you do have a dominant vibration. And let's call that dominant vibration your belief. Your belief is a thought that you continue to think. And the reason that you continue to think the thought is because it's dominant, so it's easiest to find. It's dominant, so it has the most momentum. But it doesn't have to be dominant, and it doesn't have to have the most momentum, because you could make a thought of your choice dominant just by making a thought of your choice dominant. You could say, this thought is more important to me than that thought. Prosperity is more important to me than poverty. Even if poverty is dominant in your current experience, you could make prosperity dominant in your vibration if you'd stop observing. If there's somebody in your life that is giving you constant grief, and you're observing them, how you feel about them is dominantly negative, but you could feel dominantly positive about them if you would stop letting what you observe be the basis of your vibration about them. You're sort of getting the hang of what we're talking about here. We're talking about the difference between being a deliberate creator, one who chooses the dominant thought and practices it until it is easily dominant, or one who just stumbles around, we love you so much, and focuses by default on whatever's loudest or most present. And you know what's so tricky about that? What is most present in your experience is what's dominant in your vibration. But you could change what's dominant in your vibration. You could have 10 major aspects of your current life. One of them could be pretty good, and 9 of them could be far from good. And if you would focus upon the one that you like, you could make it so dominant the other 9 would have to become the same. We love you so much, but you are lazy. You don't do that. You don't choose often what you mean to be dominant. You don't choose the direction of your thought or the vibrational content of your thought, because along your way you have come to believe that what is dominant, but it isn't. Vibration is dominant. So you could choose from what is whatever aspect of it you want. The other day, Esther was enjoying cleaning up some resistance in her own experience on a specific topic. And she was using a process that we've been teaching for quite a long while called a focus wheel. And the focus wheel is used to increase momentum. It is used to pick a topic that you would like to make dominant and increase the vibration of it, which is what makes it dominant. So the focus wheel works like this. You're observing life, something that you observe could be improved, and you recognize it. So you sit with the intention of improving your vibration on a subject. So you start with where you are. Such and such sucks. And then, as always, when you know what you don't want, for just a flash you know what you do want. So on the other end of that stick is a clearer than usual picture of what you do want. I know I don't want this, I would prefer this. So in the center of a page, Esther always draws a big circle, and she writes a positive statement that right now is not dominant within her at all. In fact, the opposite of it is dominant within her. That's why she's doing this. It's something that she intends to make more dominant, because she is going to focus on it for a little while and allow it to become more dominant. You following? So she writes this in the center, and then she tries to think of things that are easy to think of, the support center circle of intention. And it's pretty easy. First one comes sort of hard, but then she gets rolling, and she'll write the first and the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth, and sometimes she'll just fill a whole page in all around. Sometimes you can hardly see anything left on the page. It's just writing everywhere. Sometimes the momentum becomes so fast that she finds what she has written in the center to be dominant in this moment. She changed what was dominant to something else. We call that deliberate creating. It's fun to clean up vibration. However, cleaning up vibration, just the idea of cleaning up a vibration, has resistance in it, because there's something to clean up. And when you focus too long or too hard on what you're cleaning up, you make it dominant. You can do so many focus wheels on something that bothers you that you can make that thing that bothers you dominant. You getting the sense of what we're talking about? We love you so much, That's what humans do. You try so hard to get it right. You want so much to be good at what you do that you are so often in your quest for rightness or goodness or improvement actually activating the other end of the stick without even knowing you're doing it. Well, that's what Esther was doing. She was working so hard on cleaning up a vibration that she had been aware of that keeps rearing its ugly head, that while she was going through the motions and actually slightly improving the way she feels, overall too much focus wheeling on the same subject over and over again was making what she didn't want dominant. Can you follow this a little bit? And can you put it in the category of trying too hard? So something very wonderful happened to Esther during this process. Right in the middle of the process, she grew weary of the subject. Sort of like sitting and looking through the catalog too long. Has that ever happened to you? Seemed like a good idea. Ooh, I'd like that, and I'd like that, and I'd like that. But after about 25 catalogs, you just want to vomit. Too much. You know what we're talking about. Too much on a topic without really improving anything. Maybe too much yearning. So she reached that place which, for ease of conversation, a really good description, she reached a place without, in that moment, being able to consciously identify it, of just giving up. It was like, enough already. Enough already. I've said what I want what I've said. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. Something like that. And in the process of that, she doesn't even know how she did it. So we can't even really teach it to you. We're just telling you it's possible. Oh, we'll show you how. Esther fast forwarded into an uncluttered space of pure desire. And the thought that came to her mind was, if I could have this any way I wanted, if I were starting all over with this, if I were starting completely over with this, what would I choose? And right behind that came the thought, since I'm starting over right now, because every moment you're starting over. In every moment you're starting over on what you make dominant. Since I'm starting over right now, what do I choose? What do I choose since I'm starting over? It was like she rocketed through a portal where no resistance went with her. She was free of the focus wheel, free of trying to clean stuff up. She went into a sort of dream state, a sort of state of, since I get to choose whatever I want, what do I choose? She was free of now reality and just in a dream state of, what would I choose about this? Well, I would choose this, and I would choose this, and I would choose this, and I would choose this. She was breathless. And the reason that we're telling this to you is because it was so obvious to Esther, the difference between trying to clean up a vibration and just starting fresh on a subject where there's nothing to clean up, and allowing yourself to go right to where you want to be. So we want to talk to you about vibration and momentum, and about where you stand, and about how through life you have sent all of these vibrational rockets forward, which have become the vibrational version of who you are. And the vibrational version of who you are, it's such a real thing. We called it vibrational reality for a while. We gave it a name, The Vortex, wrote 2 books about it, because we want you to feel the bigness and the realness and the wholeness of it. But most of all today, we want you to feel the resistance freeness of it. We want you to feel the sweetness of it, the niceness of it, the love of it, the bigness of it, and most of all, the power of it, because there's no resistance in it. There's resistance when you try to get to it, but when you just know that it exists and don't try to justify going to it. It will call you to it when you are least expecting it. We want you to give up the struggle of improving yourself and accept the perfection of who you are, which makes us want to talk to you about who you were before you came into this physical body. Pure, positive energy. Why you came. Because you're good and you know it, and you wanted the experience of experiencing contrast for the purpose of giving off rockets of desire, for the purpose of becoming vibrationally more, so that the more that you are could call you forward, so you could feel the freshness of creation. We want you to let go of the bonds, the binding, the clutching, the resistance of what is, just for a little while we're chewing together today, and at least accept the existence of a fresh, non-resistant you, who you get glimpses of all the time. You see it in the animals that are frolicking, or the children who are frolicking, and you see it in yourself, well, not so often, when you frolic. You experience it when you just throw your head back and laugh hard at something. You know it when you are in a state of appreciation. But what we are getting at is, usually you get there because of something that you've observed that you can't control very well. We want you to get there because you've decided to make that dominant, because you've decided to make happy dominant, because you've decided to make the evolved you dominant, because you've decided to make feeling good dominant, because you've decided to make love dominant. The other morning, Esther had been watching television before she went to bed, and when she woke up, the first thought in her mind was, I hate that person. It was a person on television, an easy to hate person. And because she was so new into the day and didn't have much momentum going, we said to her, and she heard us, hate is hate. Hating somebody is hating. There's just no excuse for it. There's no excuse for it. You want to make hate dominant? Then watch television. Oh. That's not really fair, because there are lovely things on television, but you're not ready for it yet. You got a lot to make dominant before you ever turn it on again. So we're eager to talk with you about whatever matters to you. We want you to recall with us today that you were source energy before you came into this body, and the larger part of you still is. And while you've been here sifting and sorting and launching rockets, you have evolved as that soul being. And the vibrational part of you has become so much more than it was when you first got here in this body. And you are not ever going to be happy unless you are up to speed with that becoming. You got to keep up with your own evolution. You cannot let what is hold you back. And what is will hold you back. What is holding you back, because you're observing what is. It's full of vibration. You activate vibration of what is. You practice vibration of what is, and you do not allow yourself to move toward what you really want, because what is dominant in your vibration. Now you want to say, we know you do, we can hear you all over the room, well, isn't it logical that what is would be dominant? I can see it and hear it and smell it and taste it and touch it. Yeah, we get it, because you've made what you're seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and touching the reality that is most important. But we want you to realize that in this reality, there are life-affirming things and there are life-depleting things. There are things that make you feel love, and there are things that cause you to feel hate. There are things that are uplifting and praiseworthy, and there are things that are not. And you have choices that you are not making because you've got dominant thoughts that are holding you back. We've enjoyed this interaction immensely. So as we are chewing together today, it's our desire that you bring yourself to this chair, or you bring yourself to this conversation from the chair you're sitting in, and that together we make dominant the things that you've chosen through life that are, in the greater scheme of things, dominant. You are the creator of your reality. Sometimes we ask, why are you here? What did you come for? And sometimes people come because there's something specific that they want to make happen in their life. I want to live in a different place, or I want to be in a happy relationship, or I would like more money in my life so that I can have more freedom, or I would like more rewarding work, or I would like to have more freedom in my day. There are very specific things or needs that you come wanting, and we're encouraging all of that. But at the basis of every single thing you want, whether it's a relationship or a material object or a pile of money, everything that you want, what you really want is the feeling of joy, the feeling of freedom, the feeling of satisfaction, the feeling of alignment with who you have really become. So if life has caused you to want more money, vibrationally speaking, you have abundance that you are depriving yourself of. If life has caused you to want an improved relationship, vibrationally speaking, you are pinching yourself off from the relationship improvement that you want. And the reason that you're doing it is not because you're a masochist, and it's not because you're not wise, and it's not because you're not capable. It's because you've been lured by what is into a vibrational pattern that won't let you change. And so we think it's fun for you to evolve in some of those vibrational patterns, to make what you want more dominant than what you've got. And the focus wheel can help you make improvements, but there is something about a daydream. Have you ever found yourself in a daydream? You did it a lot when you were little, where you just let your mind wander and it went to really cool places where you felt really free and uplifted. And sometimes those around you, usually your teacher, wanted to snap you out of your delusional daydream and bring you back to the sucky reality that you had escaped temporarily. But we want you to decide that you're going to take an advanced course in daydreaming. We want you to decide that you're going to allow yourself to go where your inner being already is. And here's the thing that we want you to know. Your inner being isn't taking you into illusions or delusions. Your inner being will call you into a reality that you have formed bit by bit through life experience. When someone was rude, you asked for nicer. When you were rude, you asked for nicer. When you didn't have enough of something you wanted, you asked for more. When you had something you didn't want, you asked for something that was improved. You have been living life, and you have created a vibrational reality that is daydream worthy. And because your inner being is there, knowing who you really are and knowing what you really want to live fully in terms of manifestation, your inner being gives that undivided attention. And it's only when you divide yourself from your inner being that you feel negative emotion. That's what negative emotion is. You're not dreaming the dream like your inner being does. You're not seeing the positive aspects. You're not acknowledging the benefit. You're not embracing the value of the contrast and riding the rockets, your own rockets of desire. And so now you know our heart's desire. Our heart's desire is that you let yourself be you and stop being the old version of you. Now, reality, what's manifested, is like gum you've chewed the flavor out of. There's so much more. We want eagerness to come over you. We want you to think about the things that you want. When you think of travel, we want you to no longer kill the first thought of it by saying it's expensive, or airlines aren't what they used to be, or there's too much traffic on the highway, or there's too much construction. Because while some of that is true, most of it has no relationship to the thrill of getting out into the world that you still want, you see. When you stumble across the thought of financial freedom just for a moment, and you feel the lift or elation that comes with that sort of fleeting thought, fleeting only because you kill it with logic. Where am I going to get that kind of money? How am I going to ever be in a place where that could come to me? So you practice the thoughts that don't let your dreams live, so your dreams don't be dominant. Your current bank account is. Well, you don't have to do that. If we could convince you that what is vibrationally dominant within you will be, and it will be soon, that if you could find new, better feeling thoughts and make them dominant, which means make what is less dominant because the dream, the daydream, the idea of what you want is more dominant, you would start seeing the power of that kind of leverage. And Esther experienced a visceral feeling of that when she understood for the first time the difference between the power of a focus wheel, which is still cleaning up vibration, and a daydream, which just does not have any resistant vibration in it to begin with. A daydream that is resistance free. You used to do it all the time. Why'd you stop? Others around you thought you should face reality because they didn't know that you came to create reality. They thought you just came to face it. So what would you like to talk about? We're eager to talk with you about anything you want to talk about. We're happy to meet you right where you are. You don't have to pretend that something is different than it is. There's nothing that is off limits. There's no place that you are that is a wrong place. There are just places that you are that help you to know that there's a different place that you want to be. So what do you say we go find some of that? Yeah? All right. You're going to like this. Begin right here. Yes?
Thank you. Thank you for coming back to Austin. So I'm familiar with your work. I'm doing the meditation every morning basically, and getting a lot out of it still, and love it. And I'm reading.
Meditation is a really good way to allow pure positive thought to be dominant. It'll break the cycle.
It helps starting the morning for that.
We have a question for you before you go. Let's say you have a thought that has some negativity in it, and you can feel the resistance of it. Can you feel how, if there is some resistance, that meditation, which can allow no thought and therefore no vibration, is an improvement? And can you feel that from a place of no resistance, that you could get to that daydreaming more easily? Yeah.
Yeah, it allows the solutions, it allows the daydreams, the previous momentum. So I'm reading Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda, and there's some truths there which I read that before I had your knowledge, what I've been able to absorb, and now I'm rereading it. And I'm trying to merge some concepts and having fun with that.
Now you understand so much more about what you're reading.
I couldn't hear, I'm sorry.
Now you understand so much more.
Yes.
What you read before and didn't understand.
Yes.
Because now you have a vibrational basis of understanding what was written from the same vibrational basis.
Yes. Yeah, so much, it's interesting how much more the book is visible. I'm doing an audiobook, but same concept. And believe I've heard you say before, and tell me if I'm misquoting, that the common Western concept of karma, there is no law of karma. I mean, I'm probably misparaphrasing.
Well, there certainly is expansion, and there certainly is evolution, and there certainly is deliberate intent, and you certainly come into your physical body intending to have more experience. You just didn't come to clean things up, which is sort of what most people think about with karma. You came for the joy of creating, which don't you just really love and have to acknowledge right now that what you're talking about is where we started, which is the difference between the focus will, which is cleaning stuff up, and just letting yourself be. You didn't come to fix a broken world, and you didn't come to fix a broken you. You came as this perfect non-resistant being to evolve into more. So there is some sort of karma-like commentary there, but most people are looking at karma in a way that is really not what you intended when you came.
I'm clear on that. I'm going to delve a little bit further. One of the Swamis, gurus, had an explanation of karma where it was explained as cause and effect. I mean, that was literally the entire explanation.
Well,
and
that's what law of attraction is.
And that's
Law
where I
of
wanted to
attraction
go.
is cause and effect. I offer a vibration and it brings me something like it. Cause and effect.
Yes. Okay. So
Why'd you get that? Cause. What do you mean? I vibrated something just like it, and it came to demonstrate what I was vibrating.
exactly. So that I just wanted to kind of confirm that, like that interpretation of karma where it is based upon basically the law of attraction, and ask it, it is given.
Everything's based upon the law of attraction. There's not anything that is outside of that.
Okay.
It's a vibrational universe, and the law of attraction is managing the vibrations, responding to the vibrations and amplifying the vibrations and showing the effect of the vibrations. It's a really wonderful thing when you offer a vibration, cause, you feel an emotion, effect. Let the emotion be the effect before it becomes a manifestation that is so observable that you can't change it. That's getting out ahead of it.
Okay. Yeah. Clear. So to try and restate it one more time, no disagreement with what's being said, but try and put it, is that for, let's say, cause and effect, just saying ask and is given, comparing those two, that cause and effect, if like some guru or swami has really low resistance to its coming in, its being, its effect, basically the effect can be really instantaneous just because you're on step 5. I mean, you're in that continuous allowing of manifestations at the point. So instead of waiting until you croak to have it come, the effect can be, or the allowance of a physical manifestation of some sort. Obviously there's the feeling manifestation, but the physical manifestation can be as quick as you allow it.
Every manifestation, every cause and effect is instantaneous.
Okay.
But you have to be willing to look with a little more sensitivity in order to realize that there is an effect that is instantaneous. Because when you offer a vibration, things move in response to that vibration. And if you're not sensitive to vibration, you might not notice it. So if you continue it and you're still not sensitive to vibration, you might not notice it. So this is a subject that we love so much, of turning thoughts to things. But if in the vibrational phase you're oblivious, then you might be turning thoughts to things that you might not want, and you don't realize it till it got big enough that you can observe it, and then you have a whole different conversation about cause and effect. Because hardly anybody wants to say, I created that thing I do not want. So then you make stuff up. It happened to me. It was asserted in my experience. It was not my fault. It was somebody else's fault. And then you get really, really, really clever. I must have done something bad in a past life. And there isn't any of that. It's just this cause and effect. When you got here, here's how it is. You came into this physical body as pure positive energy. And the non-physical part of you, eager about your exploration of life. And you said, I'll explore all of the contrast, and from it I will specify my personal important intentions. And your inner being said, and every time you do that, we'll bookmark it. Every time you do it, we'll become it, we'll be it, we'll hold the frequency of it. So your evolution and expansion will be ours. But the difference between us, your inner being said, and you is that we will hold the current vibration while you're probably going to hold the current reality. And eventually, if you care about how you feel, you'll lean more and more in the direction of your own expansion. In fact, your inner being reminded you right before you plopped in here, splat. When you feel satisfaction, you're keeping up with you. When you feel less than satisfaction, you aren't. It's all okay. Nothing wrong with contrast causing you to want something and not going there. So more contrast causes you to really want it and you still don't go. No problem. More contrast causes you to really want it. You still don't go. But sometimes, without you even knowing, you live enough contrast that your desire becomes dominant. And then you move without even knowing how it happened. We want you to know how it happened so you can do it again on purpose.
Awesome. I want that too. It's coming. It's getting better, closer to step 5. I had something else pop up on that, but
you know what he means by step 5? These are the steps in the creative process. Step 1 is ask. Contrast causes you to do that. Step 2 is you launch this rocket. That's step 1. And your inner being becomes a vibrational equivalent to the rocket. So that's step 2. When you ask, it is given. Someone should write a book. Step 1, ask. Step 2, it's given. Step 3, before you can experience the manifestational effect of what has already been given, you have to find vibrational equivalency with your desire, which means you can't focus upon the absence of what you want and be a match to what you want. So step 3 is you got to be thinking about what you want so that you can let what you want in. That's step 3. Step 4 is getting really good at that. Mastery of step 3 is what step 4 is. Might seem strange that step 4 would just be really good at step 3, but these are our steps and that's the way we like it. Step 5 is you step back into contrast, but you're not mad at yourself because you now understand the glorious, delicious, and important reason for contrast. So you do what your inner being does. When you step into contrast, your inner being does not feel bad. Your inner being sees the value of the contrast. So when you step into contrast and you see the value of it, then there's no separation between you and your inner being, even though contrast exists. We've never said that clearly before. Step 5 is contrast exists and you have awareness of the contrast, but you have awareness of the contrast from your inner being's perspective. So you're not detaching from source. That's why Jesus could heal people. He didn't see your sickness. He knew your wellness. You stood there dripping it. Contrast was obvious, but he didn't feel bad for you or worried about you. Instead, he focused upon the vortex version of you.
I definitely want to get better at seeing the vortex version of things like that. And it's just
Why?
because of how you said it. Because, and this is very selfish, in cases where I like allowing well-being for others and I like seeing them well.
Why?
And because it's painful because it's not aligning.
Now you're telling us what you don't like,
Right.
but why?
Because
Why?
I like feeling well-being, allowing well-being, and
That's the
not
answer to
being
everything.
taken out of being taken
When
out
you
by.
really mean that, when you say, I like the satisfaction of alignment, you've got this figured out. I like the satisfying feeling of being a vibrational match to what I'm asking for. Does that mean you need to always be there? Step one is really important. Without step one, there's no expansion. So are you going to beat up on yourself when you're in step one, or are you going to jump up and down with glee like your inner being does? Oh good, there's trouble. There's trouble, and therefore desire, and therefore expansion, and therefore potential satisfaction. That's how your inner being feels. Oh good, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. They're in trouble. Everyone turn on the television. Trouble, 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 trouble. And rocket of desire, 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 rocket of desire. A vortex bigger than has ever been before into all of the universe. A universal expansion unlike anything that has ever been into all of the universe. Thank you for the trouble.
I find it easier to, and I'm getting better at that actually, and like on the medium level troubles and whatever else, where before I wouldn't be able to say, oh, contrast, good, yay, 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 when it was like, it'd be like even small things that like, oh man, but now even like medium level stuff, you know, it's like, I'm working towards the high level stuff.
So here's where we get to tell you what we really want you to hear here today. All of it's great. Trouble's great, contrast is great, new rockets of desire, all wonderful, lining up with it, all wonderful. That's all really good. We've written process after process after process after process to help you feel a little better, feel a little better, feel a little better, feel a little better. But today we want to amplify the notion of getting out ahead of it, getting out ahead of it, rather than stepping out of bed into trouble and then spending the day cleaning it up. Why not daydream more? Why not think clean, clear thoughts? Why not allow yourself to think the thoughts that your inner being thinks? We've been saying for a long time, the universe will surprise and delight you. And Esther would say, I get the delight part, but I don't get the surprise part. Because if I'm the creator of my own reality, shouldn't I be expecting some of it? And we say, however, you've been living life so incrementally, you've been putting pieces of things. It's like some really delicious recipe that when you eat it, you might be able to identify some of the dominant components, but really sophisticated, subtle, creative cooking, using all kinds of methods and ingredients in perfect relationship to each other can create things that you can feel satisfaction for when you taste them, that you can't identify all of the individual pieces for unless somebody gives you the recipe, and those really, really good cooks never do. So the recipe that you've put together, all you have to do is tune in with who you are, and then you get to start savoring it and tasting it. And then life will show you how you got there if it matters to you. But we wouldn't try so hard to teach other people how you got where you got, because that bogs you down, because they're not ready to hear it. We wouldn't try so hard to get others to get you, because they can't get you. We would just demonstrate alignment through your joyful attitude and let them figure out just one thing from knowing you. I'd like to be happy like that guy. I'd like to be successful like that guy. I'd like to be in a state of chronic satisfaction like that guy. I'd like to have the fun that guy has. I'd like everything to work out like that guy does. I'd like to live like that guy seems to live, where everything that he seems to articulate just flows easily into his experience. Yeah. We get there?
On that part, I want to add one more bit on the autobiography, definitely on the karma. I've got that. There's one extrapolation from it. And there's this interesting manifestation, so it's intention manifestation, where the guru ends up, or Swami.
Right. Now, before we go here, and
Yes.
we're happy to go here.
Okay.
We want to go here.
Okay.
Before we go here, we want you to, in the background, be considering the subject that's really on the table here today, which is cleaning up vibration, which is reacting or acting from a place of alignment. We just want to put that out there as the basis of this conversation. And now we'd like to hear your story.
Okay, so this Swami, and it's just interesting in terms of manifestation. It doesn't quite do the daydream thing, but it's interesting still, I think, enough. And that is a Swami, according to the autobiographer, ends up taking on some of the manifestations of his, let's say, pupils. I'm not sure what the correct word would be, in order to keep them from manifesting illness or something like that. That actually kind of takes it out of their escrow, goes ahead and gets rid of it. And I'm not planning on doing anything like that, but I'm just trying to explain
Good,
it.
because that's not possible.
Okay, all right, okay.
Somebody just made that up.
Okay.
But this is why. People don't want to own what they've got going on vibrationally. But you might as well own it because it's manifesting all over the place. This may be the easiest way to hear this. We've been saying this for a while, but you'll hear it in a different light now. Most of the physical human world is looking at manifestations. That's how they evaluate success. It's why they write autobiographies or biographies or anything. They sift through manifestations and categorize it into subjects, experiences, into piles. So here's the 15th century and the 16th century and the 17th century. Here's the people that lived in that time and the people that lived in that time. Or in current days, here are the Democrats and here are the Republicans and here are the independents and here are the Catholics and here are the Mormons and here are the atheists and here are the straights and here are the gays and here are the blacks and here are the whites and here are the good ones and here are the bad ones. In other words, they just constantly making piles out of everything. And then most spend their life trying to articulate the piles, to understand the piles, to more clearly identify piles, to relate to the piles. And it's chaos and it's unproductive and it's unsatisfying. It's sort of like going through the motions of life. We see just two piles in this current moment. There's the pile under the influence of inner being and the pile not under the influence of inner being. And in every one of those piles, there are Democrats under the influence and not. There are Republicans under the influence and not. Every pile has those two piles. So why not just make those two piles? Or why not pay any attention to those piles? Why not just notice which pile you're in? Am I under the influence or not? So when you're under the influence of your inner being, now you're a vibrational match to everything that you've been asking for. There's a clarity there. Now take this idea of piles. We know you understand it. It's so simple, it's insulting. And then from the perspective of those two piles, daydream. When you're in the not alignment pile, that's when you work hard and struggle. Abraham, is there any blur of the piles? Can I be in both piles at the same time? Well, this thought could take you there, that thought could take you there, this thought could take you there, that thought could take you there, this thought could take you there, this thought could take you there. But if you are deliberately wanting to make dominant the thoughts that take you to the influence of who you really are, it won't be long before that's just where you'll hang around. And then we offer a vibration to Esther and we give her time to find words that represent the vibration. And she reaches for words big enough to describe the feeling of empowerment and joy of getting out ahead of it. The difference between trying to clean something up. So what we're asking you all to try to do just a little bit, instead of taking life as it comes and reacting to it, we're asking you to not make such a big deal about life as it's coming. Just put it in one big statement that says, oh yeah, that's that. And instead, ask yourself to remember or reach for, to isolate and practice those feelings of elation. You've got some of them already, you remember them. Esther remembers the day Jerry and Esther met Elsie the cat. Elsie. It was a Louisiana cat. It was a little cat. It was in Lake Charles. Elsie was the obvious name. And Jerry and Esther had an agreement that they would have no cat. And Esther had a vortex full of cats. And so did Jerry. He just didn't know it. He had a vortex full of happiness, and he didn't relate cat with happiness. So they're at a RV park in Lake Charles, and Jerry is checking the air and the tires, and Elsie, formerly known as something else, was rubbing on Jerry's legs, and Esther could hear him talking to her, and he was saying, well, hello, little lady. And she was saying, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And he was saying, I don't want you to love me. And she was saying, I can't help myself, you are so lovable. And Esther could hear it, and she thought to herself, there is something going on here that I want in on. So she watched Jerry, and Jerry went over to the office where the lady who had registered them was, and Esther followed him, sort of like the Pink Panther. Behind this tree, behind this tree, behind this tree, and listened outside the door. And she heard Jerry say, who does this little cat belong to? And the lady said, someone just dumped it off here. And Esther thought, and so Esther didn't say anything to Jerry. Jerry didn't say anything to Esther. And that night, well after dark, someone is knocking at the door. And it is this woman. She has this cat in her arms. And she says, my husband and I have talked about this, and we think you should take this cat with you. In their monster bus. But they were only one night away from home. And Esther said, I signed a prenuptial agreement. You have no idea what a long story this is. That it is so unlikely, but we'll talk about it. Thank you very much. And so in bed that night, Esther couldn't sleep because she so wanted the cat. And in bed that night, Jerry couldn't sleep because he so didn't want the cat. And Esther said, what do you think about this? If when we wake up in the morning, that cat's nowhere around, we'll just get in our bus and off we'll go, and that'll be the end of it. But if this little cat is waiting at our doorstep, then we'll take her with us. And Jerry said, all right. So they got up before dawn, had breakfast. Esther opened all of the window shades. She's looking out across, and in her mind she's saying, here, kitty, 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 kitty. And then no cat. And so she said, all right. Jerry went out, brought the hoses in. Esther brought the rooms in. Everything was stowed. Esther sat in the seat, turned the big diesel engine over. It has to idle for 5 minutes before you drive it. And as soon as the engine started, way off in the distance, the little cat is jumping through the tall grass. You can see her head every now and again. She came right to the door of the motorhome. Jerry opened the door and said, well, little lady, I guess you're going to Texas. And in she came. Now, isn't that just the perfect story? Isn't that just a getting out there ahead of it story? Isn't that just something that could never be but did become story? Do you know that everything that you want has a story just like that? With all the facets that are important, with every obstacle. Esther did not think that there was a greater obstacle in the world. Esther called the office and said, we've got a cat. Will you go get some cat food and a litter box and a cat bed? And Yoli hung up the phone and said to Tracy, they're bringing a cat home. And Tracy said, no. They ran over a cat. They saw a cat. They have a picture of a cat. There's no way that they're bringing a cat home. No one could believe that they brought a cat home. Now, it may not seem like a very big story because it was just somebody didn't want a cat and somebody wanted a cat. But do you know, you play both roles inside yourself on every subject in the world. You want more money, but you don't believe more money. You want a better relationship, but you don't believe a better relationship. In other words, you play both roles that Jerry and Esther were playing about everything that matters to you. And the universe knows the way around your resistance, just like the universe knew the way around Jerry's resistance. That cat was the most lovely little beast in their life. They'd come home from a trip and Elsie would come running. Esther's up in the top of the treehouse one day and she said, "Where's Elsie?" And Jerry said, "I think I hear her coming from over there." So Elsie comes running from over there. She's at the base of the treehouse. Jerry's down there too. Jerry says, "Go see Esther." She climbs up the tree and leaped 12 feet across from a tree right into Esther's arms. She was like a little psychic cat. She was a representative from the universe that had come to deliver constant messages to them. They were in the office one day and Elsie is meowing. And Esther said, "What do you want?" And she said, "Food." And Esther said, "I don't know where it is." And Elsie said, "It's over here." So she went over and put her hand on the cupboard where it was, and Esther opened it up and there it was. This is a vibrational being in a vibrational universe who has intentions too. There are all kinds of intentions all around this universe that are just right for you. There are facets and phases and opportunities and things. There are ways to open you up to anything. There is nothing that you want that you currently don't believe that your inner being can't lead you to believing, you see. All things are possible. There is nothing that you cannot be or do or have. There is nothing that is outside the limits of your creating. And your inner being knows what your logical path of least resistance is to every single one of those. And so if you would just decide that you're going to make yourself as resistance free as possible, which means struggle less, face problems less, try to solve problems less, daydream more, criticize less, praise more, laugh more. It's so simple to hook up with who your inner being is.
And that's on the you can be, do, or have anything you want, which is a mantra for me, and I'm getting more and more to where I believe it. There's the case of, let's say Elsie had her transition and you're wanting Elsie there. And do you have to stretch the you or the want or the have to include, because from the human perspective, that version of Elsie is, the spirit, I can, contact, my
Well, Elsie wasn't here today, but did you feel her?
Yes.
And Esther feels the joy of her when she thinks about her.
Yes.
Whether she's there or not. So you're right. You do have to be willing to feel the vibration of it rather than have the dependency on seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching.
Okay. So that's what I wanted to get to, was just that change in perspective on that definition, because it's easy to take a...
The more you hook up with your inner being, the more you will understand that it's all vibrational. And the more that you understand that it's all vibrational, the more you will look for the Elsies and the Jerrys where they are, not where they were. Esther woke up in the night and wrote that in her iPhone as the title of the book. Look for me where I am, not where I was. Because when you get into this vibrational world, then you don't lose access to anything that you care about. Look for yourself where you are, not where you were. Now hear this. Current manifestation is were. Current manifestation is past tense. So look at where you are, not where you were. But you got to understand, you all understand right now, don't you? This conversation is taking you there. You are vibrational beings and you are there. And so when you look where you are, now you're acting in your vibrational being rather than reacting to what was. And when you react constantly to what was, you recreate what was. So your manifestations keep reflecting what was and you don't recognize any progress. This was a really good conversation. And this is a really good time for a segment of reflection.